You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Wednesday 16th of July 2014. 4 illegal workers arrested at Indian night in Chelmsford as charity night is axed. Barking and Dagenham market trader selling dangerous toys forced to pay £1,000. 660 child sex abuse arrests. Police hold hundreds of suspected paedophiles, including doctors, police officers and teachers. Imams working in British prisons have links to extremist Muslim groups and could be trying to radicalise inmates. Mayor of Vitoria causes ruckus with North Africans are sponging off us comments. France, former Front National candidate to appeal prison sentence for comparing Minister of Justice to a monkey. Diplomatic immunity abuses in UK would warrant serious punishment in their home countries. Ukrainian militiamen destroy 9 army tanks and shoot down military transport. Israel-Gaza conflict, leaflets dropped on northern Gaza ordering 100,000 to evacuate amid fears of ground incursion. Thought for the day, all change and not for the better. And finally, 2 for 1 day Wednesday. UK news. 4 illegal workers arrested at Indian nights in Chelmsford as charity night is axed. Diners at a restaurant's charity meal were turned away on Thursday, July 10th, after an unexpected visit from immigration officers revealed 4 workers were employed there illegally. Indian night on London Road and the approach to Chelmsford was forced to cancel the fundraising meal for the Jay's Hospice after enforcement officers detained 4 Bangladeshi staff working there without proper documentation earlier that evening. The restaurant now faces a fine of up to £80,000 or £20,000 per worker, unless the owners can demonstrate that appropriate pre-employment checks were carried out. Checks revealed that 4 members of staff were immigration offenders from Bangladesh. 3 of the 4 men arrested, aged 41, 37 and 31, had overstayed their visas, while the 4th, aged 33, had entered the UK illegally. The 37-year-old and 31-year-old had been detained and the others released on immigration bail while work to remove them from the UK is carried out. Owners of Indian Nights Azad Ali said it's with great sadness and after months of hard work and preparation that we had to cancel the charity night on July the 10th to raise money for the Jay's Hospice, our 3rd charity night for local causes this year, because of a routine inspection from immigration officers. World to date, tough. If a European opened a restaurant in Bangladesh, they would face much worse from the locals than routine inspections. This doesn't justify employing illegal immigrants as workers. We should get much tougher. Barking and Dagenham market trader selling dangerous toys forced to pay £1,000. A market trader who put children's lives at risk by selling dangerous toys has been forced to pay more than £1,000. Yakub Patel of Green Lane, Dagenham was fined after Barking and Dagenham Council's Trading Standards team seized 27 dangerous toys on display at his Barking Market stall on November the 18th, 2013. Less than a month later, Patel was caught displaying more dangerous toys, this time at Dagenham Market on December 15th. The toys, including dolls and pushchairs, were confiscated for failing to comply with legal safety requirements, rendering them unsafe for children. Patel was found guilty of 4 offences under the Toy Safety Regulations 2011 of the Consumer Act 1987 on June 20th at Barkingside Magistrate Court and fined £350 with £700 costs awarded to the council. He has since closed his business. In May 2013, the Barking and Dagenham Post exposed Barking market traders who were unwittingly sending banned dolls containing poisonous chemicals. A government warning was issued over the Fruithead dolls a year ago after tests on the toys revealed traces of DEHP, a dangerous substance used to make some plastics, which can also cause deformities in unborn babies and male infertility. This led to a Europe-wide product recall in May 2012, but 2 traders were found to be selling the toys. Trader Rashid Suleiman said, "I buy from wholesalers. In December I bought about 3 or 4 boxes of the dolls. I didn't know there was any problem with them. If the council had said something I would have taken them down. I will now take them down, of course. I have kids myself." World at 8. For years immigrant traders have sold bad stuff. They don't care. Why should they? If they get caught, they either go back home or reopen with another relative. Simples. $660 child sex abuse arrests. Police hold hundreds of suspected paedophiles, including doctors, police officers and teachers. Police forces across the country have arrested 660 suspected paedophiles, including doctors, teachers and former police officers, in the biggest operation for more than 10 years targeting online child abusers. A junior paediatric doctor is amongst the suspects, who along with a second man is suspected of having more than 1 million indecent images of children, according to details released by the National Crime Agency. Greater Manchester Police charged Raza Laskar, 31 in May, with sexual activities relating to a 15-year-old boy and possessing indecent images of children. He had worked in hospitals across the Greater Manchester area. Only 39 of those arrested during the 6-month operation were registered sex offenders, and the majority of them were not known by the police. The allegations range from possessing indecent images of children to serious sexual assault. The operation targeted people accessing indecent images online, with a focus on a number of people who had unsupervised access to children in the course of their work. They were identified through examinations of the so-called dark web, the encrypted underbelly of the web which gives users greater anonymity, and through traditional online methods of sharing files. Among those arrested were a foster carer with no previous allegations of offending, who was looking after a 12-year-old vulnerable child at the time of his arrest. A grandfather with access to 17 grandchildren, 2 of whom had previous disclosed abuse by him. A suspect who admitted he had been viewing indecent images of children for 30 years from the age of 16 and had regularly travelled to Southeast Asia for sexual purposes, according to police. Officers said that 431 children had been identified at risk of abuse and steps had been taken to protect them. The NCA declined to say how it traced the abusers, but played down any suggestion that it was linked to any technological breakthrough. 2 years ago, the NCA estimated that 50,000 people were involved in sharing child abuse images online, and in the past 20 years the number of images available has soared from an estimated 10,000 to tens of millions. The operation was the largest since Operation Ore, which started in 2002 and which led to more than 2,600 British men being brought to justice for downloading images of child abuse. The investigation followed the conviction in the United States of a couple behind a company that provided access to adult pornography and child abuse images. The names of more than 7,000 Britons on the database were passed to British authorities for investigation. World at 8. Their convictions will be a good result for our police force. It is just too terrible sometimes to fathom the abuse of these children. Interesting the term Britons, looking at what lives in the UK under that name. Imams working in British prisons have links to extremist Muslim groups and could be trying to radicalise inmates. Imams with links to extremist Muslim groups are helping to turn Britain's prisons into state-funded breeding grounds for extremism, an expert has warned. The Prison Officers Association described the threat of inmates being radicalised as a real problem. There are 11,683 Muslim prisoners in Britain's jails, and the government has deployed imams to help steer them away from extremist paths. Professor Anthony Glees, head of the Centre for Security and Intelligence Studies at the University of Buckingham, told the Daily Mail, "Our prisons have turned into a state-funded breeding ground for extremism. It is completely unacceptable that imams with extremist views are allowed to preach in prisons." Some of the preachers visiting Muslims in jails are fomenting resentments and putting extreme views to them, Professor Glees explained. He said what these preachers do is put extreme views to prisoners. To example, gays should be hanged, the Jews plus CIA carried out 9/11, adulteresses should be stoned to death. They foment resentments, and when you add extremism to resentment you get radicalisation and ultimately terrorism. Not every radical is a terrorist, but every terrorist has been a radical. World at 8. To my knowledge, in one prison the only religious person they have is an imam. No one from the Christian church is on duty. To many Muslim criminals, it's home from home. European news. Mayor of Vitoria causes ruckus with North Africans as sponging or fuss comments. Javier Maroto told Spanish radio station Cadena Ser that he had no official data but had no intention of being politically correct when talking about how they're taking us for a ride. Some foreigners in our city come primarily to claim social benefits and have no intention of working or integrating, Maroto told Cadena Ser when talking about how Vittorio's opposition Socialist Party had suggested impoverished residents should be paid in cash rather than be handed free food. If someone goes hungry in our city, we must help them. But we can't just give them money for them to send back to Algeria and Morocco, the mayor with Spanish Conservatives Popular Party stated. It isn't the same with people from Latin America. They come to work and are willing to integrate. Maroto has already revoked the residency documents of 300 people who falsely claimed they lived in the Basque capital to be able to have access to free food products in local supermarkets. They've been told they can sponge off others here. Many Victorians have had it up to here with these people. World at 8. As have we, my friend, as have we. France, former Front National candidate to appeal prison sentence for comparing Minister of Justice to a monkey. Anne-Sophie Leclerc, a right-wing French politician, was sentenced to 9 months in prison for comparing France's Minister of Justice to a monkey, will appeal her conviction. The ex-candidate for the Front National Party was also banned from working in politics for 5 years and given a €50,000 fine. In October 2013, Leclerc caused uproar throughout France when a photo was posted on her Facebook page comparing Christiane Taubira to a monkey. Her actions provoked a criminal investigation and her ultimate exclusion from the right-wing Front National. She defended her actions. This photo was a joke. The image was posted on my Facebook page and I deleted it a matter of days afterwards. I did not create it, she argued. The Front National issued a statement condemning the actions of Leclerc. Her opinions are contrary to the values the party defends, it read. The party was issued with a €30,000 fine. The former politician also commented on the image saying, "Ultimately I prefer to see her in the branches of a tree than in government." World at 8. Well, at least she didn't say swinging in a tree, did she? World News. Diplomatic immunity abuses in UK would warrant serious punishment in their home countries. Mark Simmons said Scotland Yard had flagged up 14 serious offences by people with diplomatic immunity. 2 Saudi diplomats have avoided drink driving charges in the UK because they have diplomatic immunity. However, anyone caught drink driving in Saudi's capital Riyadh would face 800 lashes. A Pakistani diplomat is alleged to have committed a domestic rape while under the protection of diplomatic immunity, the Foreign Office said. The rape allegation was among 14 offences alleged against foreign diplomats, which included a child abduction by a Pakistani diplomat, claims of actual bodily harm against a Cameroon and a Zambian diplomat, and a sexual assault alleged against a Zambian diplomat. Mr Simmons noted the alleged offence in the annual report on serious offences alleged against foreign diplomats and emphasised the Foreign Office seeks to have immunity waived in serious cases. Among the other allegations was one count of driving a vehicle reported as lost or stolen and without insurance against a Sierra Leone official, one of driving while under the influence of alcohol and without insurance against a diplomat from El Salvador, and one public order offence claimed against a diplomat from Kuwait. In a written statement to MPs, Mr Simmons said some 21,500 people are entitled to diplomatic immunity in the United Kingdom and the majority of diplomats abide by UK law. World at 8. Like their fellow countrymen, many come over here just to extract the Michael and get away with it. The trouble is they do just that. You can't even deport them or their relatives. Ukrainian militiamen destroy 9 army tanks and shoot down military transport. Militiamen in the southeast of Ukraine said they downed 2 government warplanes and destroyed 9 army tanks, 1 armoured personnel carrier and several mortar positions. The militiamen now have a Grad multiple rocket launcher, artillery systems and an attack plane. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian authorities are continuing an anti-terrorism operation in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Also, a Ukrainian military transport plane was shot down on Monday along the country's eastern border with Russia, the defence minister said. Rebels in conflict-racked eastern Ukraine immediately claimed responsibility for downing the Antonov 26, but Ukrainian Defence Minister Valery Hetley said the rocket may have been fired from Russia. Israel-Gaza conflict. Leaflets dropped on northern Gaza ordering 100,000 to evacuate amidst fears of ground incursion. As Israel moved a step closer to ground incursions and ordered thousands to evacuate from northeastern Gaza, ongoing missile strikes of today killed more than a dozen Palestinians. Hamas officials say at least 211 people have died in the Israeli offensive, the BBC reported, including another 10 overnight and the children later today. The Israeli Defence Forces dropped leaflets across the Shijawa and Zaytown districts and also issued a series of recorded phone calls with the message to evacuate, adding, "Failure to comply will endanger your lives and the lives of your family." The region is home to more than 100,000 people and lies just across the border from Israel. Its wholesale evacuation means overland raids could be about to follow, Israeli experts said. This afternoon, Hamas confirmed what had been evident from its actions over the past 24 hours, informing the Egyptian government that it officially rejected proposals for a ceasefire. World date. It also must be said Hamas did not observe the ceasefire at all, and Israel only responded after the ceasefire had ended, contrary to the media hysterics. Thought for the day: all change and not for the better. I didn't think certain things could get much worse, but they are, especially with the so-called cabinet changeover initiated by Cameron, who is clearly not having a clear future foresight moment here. It shows only too clearly the plan is working yet again: get rid of senior male white politicians who, although I am an ex-Conservative, do have years of experience between them handling various political dramas, albeit well or badly, but at least don't run to the bathroom with a box of tissues when everything blows up, which his newbies might well do. Now, I'm a woman, albeit entering the crone-like stage of my life, but still appreciate the sisterhood of women, except in certain places where life and experience has taught me that men handle certain situations much more efficiently than women. Sorry girls, they do. Just being a tough cookie doesn't make one able to see a problem from a completely different angle, and it is true that men and women do operate from different sides of their brains. This is why, although I applaud women judges and certain other professional occupations we occupy, I'm firmly against having a plethora of young female bods around Parliament or in high places, because I firmly believe they will not do the job well, indeed if at all. The loss of many of these middle-aged or elder statesmen is yet another admission that the UK establishment has really lost its way. Could you honestly see other European countries ditching their experienced politicians for a band of newcomers waiting in the wings? I don't think so, or Merkel would have been out long ago, as she's my age. No, Cameron, this move will not win any votes in the next elections. In fact, it is a vote of non-confidence for the last few years. These guys have been working their butts off. Now, an ex-con I may be, but you have to admit, whether you agree with certain policies or not, that certain parties do stand for certain things, and those things they usually do fairly well. Conservatives have always stood for the privileged, although that name has changed meaning over the last few years. They do know how to treat foreign powers and handle difficult situations abroad, generally. Also, cons know about money, or rather used to. Now, Labour used to stand up for the old working class and the unions, none of which they do now. Liberals have always been just that, liberal. UKIP has revealed a hidden agenda in the appointment of a Muslim, Amjad Bashir, into the UKIP melee. A snippet from my pal Merlin. How can anyone doubt about it? UKIP is just another multiracial party wrapped up in a union flag that has absolutely no interest in protecting the customs and culture of the indigenous people of Britain. But if anyone still needs persuading, I invite you to look at the new UKIP MEP for Yorkshire, Amjad Bashir. Now, Mr Bashir might well be a personable individual, but he's also a Muslim who, as far as I've been able to ascertain, has never denounced the cruelty of the Islamic creed towards women and or non-believers. So why has Farage put him on the Europol Human Rights Committee? Additionally, the same Mr Bashir has grown rich by selling halal meat products, both in his own restaurants and to supermarkets and other outlets. He praises the value of diversity, for example, split communities, split loyalties, split cultures, implying that such things make us stronger. So no need to wonder why Farage always sits on the fence about halal slaughter. No, the political scene, even without the fetus Hague, is sadly diminished, and as a nationalist this doesn't bode well for the UK or its future. Cameron has proved if you're pale, old and stale, you don't count, and the problem with that thinking is that it is mainly the old, pale and stale who are still paying their taxes, have always done so, and most of them still vote Conservative, and I believe that with Farage sitting firmly atop the local mosque, they still will, because they have no one left to identify with in UKIP, which they don't. The miserable diversity-ridden teachers, labelled the new teachers, are all waving their parents' CND badges and declaring victory as Gove hides off into what is laughingly called central government. Although the very opposite of a nationalist, Gove still did try to instil teaching values in the state schools for his own tribe as opposed to a clutch of semi-social workers on a political multiracial bender, which is what will happen now in our education system. Absolutely nothing, and still running on the multi-ethnic stats of St Mary's C of E Primary School, Manchester, in which only 20% have English as their prime language. A winning combination for the plan. It is classed as an amazing school, probably because there is very little left of traditional England in either its pupils, teachers or curriculum. So much for the Church of England sticking to Christian traditions of prayers and scriptures. R.I.P. Gove, you will be missed. Another blast for the culture of England is the instatement of women bishops. Sorry, not having a bash at my own sex day, but really? Looking at the female retard burbling on about waiting for years for this made me want to heave. I wouldn't talk to her about my relationship with the big G if she were the last person on earth. She struck me like an out-of-work social worker, and we all know how I view them. What has happened to the Church of England? And of course the answer is they are, unlike the Catholic Church, answerable to whatever government is in power. It is the government that appoints men like Welby to the Diocese of Canterbury, and previous to him other really unlikable guys. God help them if they come down to the women involved. It's enough to make you want to convert to Islam. No such problem there, I feel. Soon we will have, in the name of diversity and not God, homosexual, cross-dressing black bishops mincing around in the Gay Pride March to facilitate a better understanding of the diverseness of the church, or better still something like the gender-confused winner of the European Song Contest belting it out in Westminster Cathedral. Put that with a stream of thalidomide priests all competing in the disabled Olympics and mix it with a couple of Down syndrome vicars and there you have it, a fully diverse mix of people who all deserve a chance in life. With that I agree, but not in my church. Great civilisations do not last forever. True, but the fact they have lasted at all boils down to one thing. Tradition! And here I'm bouncing around singing from Fiddler on the Roof. Tradition is what holds a country and its people together like glue. Whether you approve of 100% of that glue is irrelevant and methinks unimportant, even in today's society that thinks it deserves everything on offer absolutely free. You get what you pay for and work for, and we are now reaping the benefits of all the soppy do-gooders propagandised over the years to believe that the more abnormal you are, for any reason, the more you deserve what the rest of us obviously do not. And of course this also applies to the rest of the world who happen to land here on our soil. The more the merrier. Yes sir, of course we'll put you on the local council and then in Parliament because of course having come here not speaking English and doing so well out of the dumb British blurbs and knowing all about corrupting and starving your fellow countrymen in whatever hellhole you came from, this should equip you wonderfully for trying to run the UK. And just to help you, we'll put you beside a young white woman who is well versed in diversity and can help you take her job at a later date as well. The path has been laid out beautifully, and all in the name of a diminished United Kingdom, and a trumpeted entrance for the new multicoloured, disabled, mixed-gender, mentally challenged retard of the block. Now, in case I get a plethora of comments from listeners who have mixed race relatives, disabled relatives, mentally challenged relatives, cross-gender or cannot make up their mind, would-be homosexuals or whatever relatives, I am not anti these people. I frankly couldn't give a rat's arse either one way or the other, but it is a fact that if these sections of society that are being exhorted to filling the bill to the letter in dumbing down everything traditional in this country, we now have senior jobs which have to be filled by a disabled person who might or might not be up to the job. Our shops are adapted, our streets are adapted, our culture is adapted to cater for very small minorities which admittedly do need help. But to make this help and consideration a must-do and a must-have and a must-see item is very wrong. It does the job of flying in the face of everything that is harking back to the Aryan ideal master race idea not taking hold in the UK, which it would never do anyway, but is forming a new ideal sub-master race comprising of all the challenged of every colour and from wherever in the world to become the new British ideal diverse society, which in fact goes nowhere, does nothing and more importantly doesn't give anyone anything to strive for. With the best intentions in the world, would you strive to be a mixed-race one-legged homosexual, or moreover would you want your child to strive to become this new ideal? Now, I'm the first to admit there is no ideal Aryan supreme master race looks-wise, least of all in Germany. The true ideal German is brown-haired and blue or grey-eyed. Hitler was the true Austrian type of black hair and light eyes. The only true Nordic colouring is already being diluted in countries like Sweden and Denmark, and our own Anglo-Saxons are drastically reducing. I myself have the best of both. I was born with black hair and now I'm white, so I'm now a true Aryan. But whatever your feelings on the matter, the truth is that as a people we are being denigrated and reduced to a level which is unnaturally Marxist, and by that I mean that Marx himself was a Jew but didn't push the mixed race idea. In fact, Russia had the harshest treatment of Jews until the Third Reich, with regular pogroms. So this everything odd and challenged is good and everything that is traditional and historic is bad idea is a relatively new one from the European Union, and in place it only seeks to reduce us even further in our own eyes as being worth nothing because we have given so much over to various minorities. It is like houses and buildings. All the best historic ones have been built on the right foundations on the right land. The newcomers are mere tawdry imitations on shifting sand, open to flooding and disaster. Where would you rather build your house? And finally, 2 for 1 Day Wednesday. The Archbishop of Canterbury and the Royal Commission for Political Correctness announced today that the climate in the UK should no longer be referred to as English weather. Rather than offend a sizable portion of the UK population, it will now be referred to as Muslim weather, partly sunny but mostly Shiite. And in pharmacology, all drugs have 2 names, a trade name and a generic name. For example, the trade name of Tylenol also has a generic name of acetaminophen. Aleve is also called naproxen, amoxil is also called amoxicillin, and Advil is also called ibuprofen. The FDA has been looking for a generic name for Viagra. After careful consideration by a team of government experts, it has recently announced that it has settled on the generic name of My Cocks Are Flopping. Also considered were My Cocks Are Failing, My Dicks Are Drooping, My Dicks Are Rising, Dicks Are Fix, and of course, I Be Poking. Pfizer Corp announced today that Viagra will soon be available in liquid form and will be marketed by Pepsi Cola as a power beverage suitable for use as a mixer. It will now be possible for a man to literally pour himself a stiff one. Obviously we can no longer call this a soft drink, and it gives new meaning to the name of cocktails, highballs and just good old-fashioned stiff drink. Pepsi will market the new concoction by the name of Mount and Dew. Thought for the day: there is more money being spent on breast implants and Viagra today than on Alzheimer's research. This means that by 2040 there should be a large elderly population with perky boobs and huge erections and absolutely no recollection of what to do with them. You've been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozar and I wish you all a very good night.